As if gamma accidents, radioactive bug bites, and assorted mutants weren't enough.
What's up, everybody? It's Josh. We need to talk about the new X-Men / Wolverine tease from She-Hulk Episode 2. Now, on the surface, this might just seem like a fun little Easter egg, but when we dig into this, I think you'll realize that there's way more going on here than you might realize, and Feige is definitely showing his hand as to how he wants to handle the X-Men in the MCU. And so this tease happened in the scene where Jen was looking for obscure jobs, thinking she would never get a job as a lawyer ever again. And on the side of the news page that she is on, there is a sentence that says, "Man fights with metal claws in bar brawl." That is absolutely a Wolverine tease. Like, metal claws, that probably would have been enough for us, but the fact that he gets in a brawl in a bar, I mean, that's classic Logan, man. I don't know what else to say. This is definitely a Wolverine tease. First of all, it's important to note that this clears up a major point of confusion for Marvel fans about mutants in the 616. Up until this point, we haven't seen any actual mutants in the MCU, and the very first time mutation was even referred to with regards to a character was in the Ms. Marvel show. And we've had a lot of questions about this, like, are mutants even here in the 616 timeline? Were mutants eliminated perhaps by Kang while setting up the Sacred timeline? Or is it perhaps just one of these situations where mutants are going to happen at a much later time period in this universe than they did in 838 and some of the other universes in the Marvel multiverse? But the fact that Logan is around does suggest that mutants have also been around for some time, and maybe not a ton of them, but at least a few of them have been interacting with different governments in likely little shadow programs around the world. And we're going to get into the sweet speculation of what that could possibly mean, but it does suggest that the mutants themselves are not known by many people out there, or perhaps being kept a secret either by different governments or by Charles Xavier himself. But the fact that Logan already has his metal claws, his famous adamantium claws, and the adamantium on his skeleton suggests that this is occurring after the Weapon X program. And a little TLDR on the history of James Howlett, aka Logan, aka Wolverine, is that Wolverine actually works for the Canadian government for some time as a crazy operative, and then is recruited into the Weapon X program. It is in the Weapon X program that he gets the adamantium put on his bones, and he gets memories removed and false memories implanted to try to control him. Now, that doesn't work, and he escapes, killing almost everybody in the Weapon X facility, and then goes on to eventually be re-recruited by the Canadian government and is still a weapon for hire up until Charles Xavier finds him and recruits him to join the X-Men. And so I think it's fair to say that we are somewhere in between the Weapon X program being established and him being recruited by Charles Xavier. And I suppose it is technically possible that Wolverine is an X-Men already and he's just out and about fighting in a bar, but usually in the X-Men comics, when Wolverine is there with the X-Men, he's not messing around getting into brawls as much, just kind of as he would do on his own. Now, this also suggests that Logan, just like in the comics, has actually been around for a long time. Like, he's fought in different world wars, actually fought alongside Captain America in the comic books, and he's a really old man, been around for a long time at this point. And so, you know, focusing on this character as maybe one of the first X-Men or mutants in the 616 MCU would be a terrific, cool idea, because you can go back to time periods before the modern age and fill in the gaps of not only what was going on with Logan, but perhaps what was going on with mutants, the relationships that mutants had with different governments and organizations out there. It's a really intriguing possibility. And in fact, at one time, there was this major rumor that there would be a Wolverine anthology series coming to Disney Plus, which would be one of the first ways to explore exactly what I was just talking about, how Logan was messing around with these other characters, what was going on with mutants at the time, because he's lived for a long time. It's also been an ongoing discussion about how the Russo brothers love Wolverine and would love to come back to the MCU to perhaps do the new Wolverine in the MCU. And there have been pretty well-established rumors lately that Taron Egerton is indeed in talks with Marvel Studios to become the new Logan, aka Wolverine. And so this tease, although just a very small thing here, could be potentially setting up a big macro plan of how this is all going to unfold. I mean, if you think about it, Kevin Feige just put mutations into the Miss Marvel show, actually had the theme, the X-Men 97 theme playing there. We just got Charles Xavier in Multiverse of Madness, and now we're getting a Wolverine tease in the She-Hulk show. Seems to be by design and perhaps leading to a scenario in which we're going to get the X-Men sooner than we had thought. And that takes us in to the possible bad news, but maybe also good news about what's going on with mutants and X-Men in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because there were new reports that due to contracts with Fox and some of the producers and actors that did some of the later Simon Kinberg produced X-Men films, that Kevin Feige would not be able to do any recasting of major X-Men or do a proper X-Men movie until after 2025. One must wonder, is that bullcrap? Is that story false? Is there an ability for him to do the new Wolverine, a Taron Egerton 616 Wolverine, in the MCU? Perhaps if he calls him Weapon X or does something different. I guess I'm just really hoping that this little tease here, and with the mutant tease in Miss Marvel, that story is being blown out of proportion, and I would love to get X-Men as soon as possible in the MCU, especially because although it's probably the case that we'll be getting, maybe a Hugh Jackman Wolverine and maybe some of the Fox X-Men in Secret Wars, I'd still love to get the 616 X-Men involved in that show as well, or in that movie. I think that would be a really good time. Now, my brain has been obsessed with how the X-Men will unfold in 616 for like a long freaking time here. And again, to circle back to something we were talking about earlier in the video, this does make it seem like mutants have been around and perhaps their existence has been kept a secret. And a lot of people had the theory that maybe Charles Xavier of the 616 universe was hiding the existence of mutants from most of the people on Earth. I mean, this could absolutely be the case, and I've often called this theory the Harry Potter theory, as the mutants in this scenario would exist something like the wizards in the Harry Potter books. They exist, they thrive, they have a culture and all these different laws and things, but they're pretty much unknown to the rest of the world. Most of the Muggles have no idea that the wizarding world even exists. And that could be the case. That could be something that is happening in the 616 with mutants, and Charles Xavier could be mind wiping everybody that had interactions with them. It is also possible that they are going to take a page out of Jonathan Hickman's new X-Men run, and Charles Xavier and Magneto could perhaps be working together on Krakoa, and maybe most of the mutants are actually not interacting out there in the world and are instead over on Krakoa, hidden, mostly secret. Maybe even that sovereign nation has been established, because there's a lot of gaps in what we know about what's going on in the MCU, the status quo of the world post Endgame. We've got little teases, little updates here, but we don't have a full picture for how that's going to look. So either way, this is really freaking exciting. I'm really hoping we get Wolverine and X-Men very fast in the MCU. D23 is right around the corner. Maybe big shocking surprises to be announced then. I of course want to know what you think about this tease about Logan. Is there any other implications that I missed? Let me know in the comment section below.